All right, so this is our second video on Pythagorean theorem. This is solving for x, okay? And so this is where we're going to really use algebra to figure out what is x, okay? We can establish that all of these are right triangles because we have the right triangle sign there, okay? And so because of that, we can use the amazing equation a squared plus b squared equals c squared, okay? And so with that being said, we can take advantage of this problem by just using this. And whatever we don't have, we use the other ones to solve for, okay? So I'm gonna do number 1 and 5, just so you can get an idea of how to do this, and then the rest is gonna be yours, maybe even 4. So we start off again with a squared plus b squared equals c squared, all right? And then we need to establish what is a, b, and c, okay? So remember, C is always going to be the side that is opposite of the right triangle. So that is 10. And then A and B can be either one of the opposite or adjacent sides. So this could be A, and then this could be B. Okay. And then we can go ahead and just plug it in the equation. A squared is 6. 6 times 6 is 36 plus x squared equals 100, right? Because 10 times 10 is 100. All right, and so we can go ahead and finish solving for it. So we got negative 36 on both sides. X squared equals 100 minus 36. That gives us 64, okay? Now, this is the key part that you need to remember when you are solving these type of problems. Whenever you have x squared equal to some number, you're not done with solving for x, because remember, you don't want just x squared, we want x. So in order for us to get x, we need to get rid of this square here, okay, or that 2 power. And so in order for us to do that, we have to do the opposite of a square, which is a square root. Okay. And the general rule is if you have a 2 inside to the, if you have the second power, a term to the second power inside of a square root, pretty much everything goes away besides that term. Okay. So the 2 goes away, the root goes away, everything goes away. Okay. That only works for square roots. Okay. And so we have x squared equals 64. So if I square root both of these, I'm going to square root x squared, which is x, and the square root of 64 is 8. And so x equals 8. Number 4. All right, again, we go a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, and here we see that this is going to be c, and then we could call this one a, call this one b. And remember the rule when you have a second power inside of a square root. What happens to it? It goes away. So we got 8x squared plus square root of 6 squared equals 4 squared. Okay? And so if we go ahead and solve this now, we're going to get x squared plus, now we have a, so this is actually inside, sorry. Okay, so whenever you have a square root, squared, okay, essentially what you're doing the square root of 6 times the square root of 6, okay? Now the square root of 6, the way do you do that, you just multiply the 2, which becomes the square root of 36. And we know that the square root of 36 is just 6, okay? So then this becomes 6 equals 16. All right, and then we go ahead and finish solving. X squared is going to equal 10 because we subtract 6 on both sides. The square root on both sides. Remember, if you have a to the second power inside the square root, everything goes away besides that term. You got the square root of 10. All right, now here you want to ask yourself, what two multiples of 10 that I can find a perfect square out of? So 1 times 1, that gives me 1. All right, is there anything that multiplies by itself that gives me 2? No. Is there anything that multiplies by itself that gives me 5? No. Is there any number that multiplies by itself that gives me 10? No, it's not. So then we can just keep it as square root of 10. All right, now we have number 5. So we got a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, this is going to be c, a, and then b. All right, and so we have c, which is x, equal to 14 squared plus the square root of 22 squared. Okay, now let's do 14 times 14. That's going to be 196 equals x squared plus, so we got the square root of 122 times, excuse me, the square root of 122 squared, which is just square root 122 times square root of 122. This is multiplication, so it's going to be 122 times 122, which is going to be the square root of 14,884. And when you square root that, you get 122. So then this is just 122. All right. So we got x squared. We want to solve for x, so we want to keep this on this side because it's already by itself. So we got 122 plus 196. That's going to give me 318 equals x squared. All right. 122 plus 196, that gives me 318 equals x squared. Okay, so we got x squared equals 318. All right, and so we can try to figure out, are there numbers that go into 318 evenly that are also perfect squares? Or we can just say x equals the square root of 318. All right, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We will do some more problems. Let me know if you have any questions. And we can go ahead and try to see if we can break this down. Yeah, it's hard to break down. So we just have to keep it like this, because I can't think of any other number that goes that evenly. All right, cool.